Welcome to the Cybertron City podcast, New York City's premier Transformers fancast, where we celebrate all eras of Transformers except Kiss players. My name's Paul, aka Brooklyn Bots, over on Instagram. I am joined by my regular co-host Danny, aka Matrix_Mez, over on Instagram. Danny, how you doing today?
Doing all right. If I sound like garbage, it's because I'm just getting over a cold that I got. But yeah, here we go, a month in, and I still haven't gotten rid of the underscore.
I know. Well, I'm also going to apologize to the viewers in advance. If I sound like garbage, it's probably because of the Wi-Fi. It's been a little bit rainy, been a little bit overcast, a little cloudy, a little depressing outside in this first week of August right now in New York, but that's just the way it is. We pay a lot to get very little here in New York, but oh well. That's just life in the Big Apple. It takes a bite out of you. As this podcast, for those of you who have tuned in for a little while, welcome back. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you aboard. Episodes 1 and 2 are doing phenomenally well on YouTube right now. Thank you for your support. Greatly appreciate it. By the time this comes out, episodes 3 and 4 will also be on YouTube. So if you haven't done so already, go to our Instagram page. It is at Cybertron City Podcast. From there, you can find our links to both our Spotify page and YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, just go to the podcast page and click those 3 little dots at the top. If you can leave us a 5-star review, if you think we're worth it, greatly helps us get that algorithm going in our favor. If you're listening on YouTube, you know the deal. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and leave a comment below. Just engage a little bit with whatever the podcast topic might be, whether it's your favorite toy line, why you got into Transformers. At this point, 5 episodes in, you're starting to lose track exactly of what you did. But getting that content out there in the universe is always a good thing.
Yeah, we're getting too big.
Yeah, I know. It's we're real heavy lifters right now. 10 subscribers and counting.
I know.
How about what's been new in your neck of the woods this week, Danny? Anything new, and whether it's Transformers radars, new purchases, anything on the horizon that's been of any interest to you lately?
Yeah, I almost forgot. Literally, I remembered when we were like signing on to the podcast right now to record. I picked up the Dragon Megatron, the Transmetal Dragon Megatron, last week.
Nice. How do you like
Yeah,
it?
bro, he's huge. I know I'm kind of like a year behind, but I wasn't too invested in it because I wasn't too sure if I needed it in the collection or not. But he's huge. I'm surprised they didn't try to cram him into a commander-sized box.
Well, he's got a big wingspan too. Like he's straight
Yeah.
out of the '90s. Looks like he belongs on like a Power Rangers villain show, like one of the like long-standing Power Rangers villains. He's just like
Hmm.
all the like magma colored body, those bright orange lava wings. It's just that figure, when I got him out of the box too, that thing is huge. One of my favorite figures of 2022, actually.
I've replaced the fire effect only because I like the Last Night Megatron's a bit better, only because it's bigger and it has the flames kind of more protruding out of the sculpt. So I don't know where that smaller flame effect went. The one that came with the original release.
No more flaming hot Cheeto for you.
No, it was literally a Cheeto. And I don't like how it angles kind of a bit lower than it should. He's kind of like throwing up instead of blowing the fire out with that
Yeah,
flame effect. But oh well, that's
I
why I
agree.
got more Megatrons. That's why I got more flame effects. Not
He's
going
a
to be the end of the world.
he's a franchise heavy hitter. Like if there's not at least like 3 or 2 Megatrons a year, Hasbro, you're just doing it wrong. Especially in these hard times where they need all the coin they can get.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
is there anything new that you picked up? I know you were going on a absolute shopping spree the last like few episodes. I don't know if you kind of gave that a bit of a step back, or you're just waiting on more pre-orders. You madman.
Well, I mean that's fair. Like I definitely am. My name is Paul. I'm a Transformers addict. I'm a plastic crack addict. Hi, Paul. But I did see a Studio Series 113 Skywarp from the Bumblebee movie in Target the other day, and I plan
Yeah.
on getting him. But because I see them in the wild ahead of schedule at a Target that almost never has anything new, let alone stuff that's brand new, I'm like, screw it, why not? So shout out to the cashier at Target that did her absolute damnedest to find the thing in the whatever the Target DCPI log or whatever the little microphone smartphone thingy that they haul
Yeah.
around on their whole POS system, and decided, you know what, can't find it. I'm going to give it to you $10 off. So I
No
got
way.
a Bumblebee movie, brand new Skywarp for $25. It was a great birthday present. Loved it. And, it's a Bumblebee movie seeker. So, like, if you don't have the mold already, it's awesome. If you have it, it's a seeker repaint. You know what you're getting into. But, it was another slightly more expensive figure that I had meaning to get later. But when you see them in the wild, the thrill of the hunt's still there, even for a guy like me that is just absolutely all in on the pre-order mentality. He's fun. But now I finally have the complete Bumblebee movie Cybertron Falls cast, and it's great. If I ever wanted to slay them all together, I have that opportunity to do that. But that's it. Like, no massive amounts of pre-orders for me this week. Just one little lone figure.
It's funny because you didn't tell me anything about this. You'll normally like kind of send me a picture on Instagram, or you'll be like, "Hey, like I just picked this up." Like you'll show me something that you got. Like you show me a proof of what you have. So you've been kind of keeping this on the down low. I don't know if you don't want to like say like, "Hey, I'm back at it again," or like it's starting up again. I don't know what to do, but you were
That's not
kind of
true.
hiding it.
That's not true. I posted it on my stories the other day.
Did you? Oh, damn! I haven't been on Instagram then.
You've been MIA. You've been hard to get hold of this week, but I know you're working hard.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. But I was trying to get back into the Bumblebee movie figures because I know that sculpt looks amazing. That like whole Bumblebee movie seeker sculpt,
Yeah.
but I just wasn't able to get a hand, like get a hold of it when it came out. I wasn't there when the hype was up and they were kind of starting to hit the shelves, and it kind of wasn't in kind of falling in love with the idea of having another movie Starscream on my shelf. So I skipped out on the Soundwave, on the Seekers. I had Blitzwing for a while, but I kind of gave him away.
Hmm.
I didn't want to like add more Autobots. When the Ratchet came out, the Ironhide, the RC, because I don't know, I couldn't justify it, but I'm definitely regretting that now.
The Cybertron Falls designs are very hit and miss for me. I think
Hmm.
something like Wheeljack looks great. I think the Seeker designs look great. I
Hmm.
wish Starscream would have like a more true to form G1 head, because in toy form it just looks kind of odd. I don't think the sculpting works exactly the way it should. But the body
Hmm.
type I do like. I like that traditional. I think for Starscream, for whatever reason, I like his more like traditional looking body. Even if you look at something like Armada, it's not a like direct one-on-one rehash of the original G1 Seeker body, but you can tell like it's Starscream just by the way the head
Yeah.
is. He transforms into a jet. Versus the live action one, again, a lot of people love that design just because it's so different. But for me, I feel that design would be much more believable as Starscream if it wasn't for the head just looking so radically different.
A bit scrunchy, right?
It's scrunchy, it's wide at like the base instead of at the top, which is just weird. His face just looks. And this might be a hot take for some of the live action fans, but I think
Uh-oh.
Starscream's probably the worst designed of like the original line of movie characters. The body is okay. I'm okay with like the Dorito looking ish body. I'm okay with him not having like the traditional like red, blue, and gray color scheme because he's supposed to be based off an F-22. But the head, I'm like, it's just it's so
Mm.
different than what I'm used to.
This is the fifth episode. I'm not trying to get canceled, so I think we might just have to cut this one for the viewers. We don't want to anger anybody out there.
No, that's too late. If they made it this far, they know what they're getting into.
Damn it,
Um,
future Danny, don't edit this out.
exactly. I know we're on a bit of a crunch today, so I just wanted to go ahead and
Mhm.
dive straight into our topic. So we were brainstorming because, like I said, this is going to be a cut short episode just because other things in the real world take precedence over talking about plastic robots, but we still wanted to get an episode out to most of you guys. So what I wanted to do was bring up something that was a little bit more specific than the last handful of episodes that we were doing. So I wanted to get into the HasLab ideas. We are now, I think, 4 HasLab projects deep in with the Transformers fandom. For 2020 and 2021, we had HasLab Unicron from the 1986 Transformers movie. For 2022, we had Victory Saber from Transformers Victory. 2023, we had Deathsaurus, also
Saurus.
from Transformers Victory. And then 2024, which we'll hopefully be seeing a release later next year or maybe later this year. Who knows? It'll be RID 2001, aka Car Robots, Optimus Prime, and Ultra Magnus. Or if you guys are going by the Japanese names, Godfire Convoy. So those all figures look great. Personally, I've been loving the HasLab releases so far. I definitely think that, especially with regards to Deathsaurus, that was going to be, per Evan from the design team, a retool, a very heavy retool of SS86 Grimlock. Having the actual Deathsaurus in hand on my shelf, I'm looking at it like right now. I'm so happy that they went originals, that just so they could really hash out all the details, give him a proper sculpt, load all those extra features in there, and make him look like a Decepticon leader instead of just like some crummy, BotCon retool from back in the day.
That's exactly what he would have like given if he would have been a Dinobot, that Grimlock Dinobot kind of mold.
Yeah,
which is crazy because I see it. I see that happening. I could see how they would make it work, but how do you give one the podium and the title of a HasLab premium product and not give its essentially partner figure that same kind of respect?
exactly. I feel there's a bunch of people, even with regards to like RID 2001, Optimus and Magnus, they're just being like, no, they could do it at Commander. And I'm like, look, Jetfire was great. Jetfire to me is my favorite Commander class figure just because he's beefy, he's tall. I feel like he's truly complete. Whereas some of the other, let me take that back. I also like Armada Optimus Prime too for different reasons. But I feel like Jetfire, he's all inclusive. He's tall to begin with. If you want to armor him up, he's great. But Commander class figures really should have that like heft and completeness to them. Whereas I think even if they made something like RID 2001 Optimus Prime as a Commander, they might be able to do him, but they would not be able to do him at scale with the rest of the Generations line, just because it's not only Prime, the core robot, but they would have to figure in all the like super mode accessories, the entire fire truck all together with all of its gimmicks, and then factor in that it's supposed to be part of a combiner too. So with Magnus, I think that's more forgiving of a Commander class because that's a more hollow design anyway, and it doesn't have to do as much as Prime does. But Prime would have definitely had to have been like either part of a Titan gift set or I don't know, just like a Commander Plus figure. I just don't see that working out the way that it did at retail.
How would you have felt? Well, how did you feel? Because I know there was a lot of discussion when this got revealed earlier this year, when and I'm talking about the RID Omega Prime HasLab. Everybody was kind of hoping and believing and just talking, that it was going to be Primus for the 40th anniversary. Were you kind of on the fence of like, oh, this is what we're getting? Okay, 40th anniversary, or were you like, yes, like we needed this right now?
I was happy with it either way. I've mentioned this before on the podcast. Already 2001 was the first series where I actually started like watching Transformers and buying the toys, like even as like a little kid. So like to me, RID 2001 is my G1. That was my entry point to the franchise. I had seen Beast Wars when I was a little kid, just like in passing, but not really paying attention much to what it was because my mind was on other things at that time. But it's like, yeah, I understand why people would be disappointed, but from like a practicality standpoint, like Unicron is enough of a struggle to have on display. I don't need two giant Transformers like looking on either side of the archway into my bedroom because people would be like, you can maybe get away with one of them. With two of them, we'll see. We'll see. I think at some point it would be a good idea for Primus to get done. But the thing with Primus is there really isn't a like definitive representation of what he looks like. Because the way that I see it, Primus can have the, I think, Dreamwave design where it's like Cybertron being like the different hemispheres and such being his shoulders or his
Yeah.
legs, and he has that like red torso, which was my kind of ideal Primus. Then you have the Primus that probably you're most familiar with, being a Transformers Cybertron fan, being the one that was, from Galaxy Force or whatever,
Mhm.
that has the Omega Lock, which I think would absolutely need to be included with all of like the golden Cyberplanet keys. If that was like a
Yeah.
bonus tier, or I don't even think that this should be a bonus tier. I think that should be like standard for
Well,
a
you put it out
Hasbro
into the
Primus.
world now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, Mark, Evan, BMAC, if you guys are listening, here's your suggestion box. And then you have the one from Marvel Comics where it's just like a disembodied head and like a middle of a bunch of circuitry. So it's like, which which Primus do you go off of? Do you make it an amalgamation of the different ones? Like, which version of the fandom do you piss off? Which one do you reward? Because like Primus, like I said, it's a bit of murky waters. Yes, I think it needs to be done. I think we need to probably wait until the economy gets a little bit more stable. Shout out to all you
Mhm.
people who are working and championing union rights. We're with you. Solidarity, rah solidarity there. But I just even remember as a practical means, getting Unicron funded required extending the deadline. There was a lot of people, rightfully so, calling for payment plans instead of taking like two car payments worth of money like all up front that's going to be held up for a year.
Crazy.
Um, but yeah, like I do. Getting back to what you said originally regarding how I felt about it. Yes, I want Primus eventually, but I also wanted an updated version of Godfire Convoy or Omega Prime, and
Mhm.
without the rubber tires, with him, actually having like modern articulation, all the stability and fragility issues of the original figure supposedly being fixed. I'm happy. I'm very very happy with the way that it's turning out.
I would, I mean, going back to what you said and kind of just delving into our main topic today on what what would be a future HasLab dream project that you have and who you would like to see either this year, next year, the year after. I would definitely love a Primus. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it, but I would definitely love to see a kind of blend of that Dreamwave red torso with the hemisphere shoulders and kind of what the third party side of the fandom is doing. And that's coming from a Cybertron fan, Galaxy Force fan, whatever it's known as in your region. Um, but like you mentioned, the Cyber Planet keys would have to be a part of that figure, regardless of what they're going for or the blend that they're going for.
I
And
absolutely
go
agree.
going back to what which Primus we would get too. I'm not sure how the trademark is working. I don't know the logistics of it now, especially for Primus. I don't know if they have that name, and if they do, I'm surprised that they haven't at least given us like a leader Primus off the Rodimus Prime Commander class that came out 2 3 years ago, and just gave him like a golden kind of paint job
Yeah,
it,
that
for
sounds
the
more
time
like
being.
that sounds more like a Generation Selects thing, which is like, all right, but that's not Primus. That's just Golden Rodimus to me. That's not. That's not that. I know there's a segment of the population, the collector base that would love a Golden Rodimus, which is like, whatever floats your boat. I'm not going to yuck your yum, but what I want is that big honk. Eventually, that big honking, like
Eventually.
something that can rival Unicron that doesn't cost $1,000. But if it costs $1,000, up front, it's better than paying like $5,000 in a left kidney on the aftermarket.
Hmm. And there's a bunch of people that just kind of want to see regular Hasbro retail or Hasbro branded Primus figures. We have our options with like third party companies, but like myself included, I've looked at it and I can get one today, tomorrow, and have it here by like the end of like 2 3 weeks from now. But I just kind of want to see that Hasbro brand on it. I kind of want to see what they got.
Yeah, I feel for people that just want like a representation of Unicron or Primus at like the Commander class, which is valid. I think there's definitely some sort of outlet for that. but we have
Mm-hmm.
a big Unicron. We kind of need a good sized Primus at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's necessary right here, right now? No, because I think there's a lot of stuff from Primus that they could have learned. Maybe incorporate Primus or incorporate the Cybertron alt mode more into Primus's robot mode instead of having it be all these like sandwiched panels like all over the place. Because even when
Yeah.
I transform my Unicron, like I've kept him in robot mode pretty much in the same position for 2 years with disturbing him very, very little. And even transforming him back, I'm just nervous that like, oh shit, I can't just like go on Amazon and order a replacement Unicron. If he breaks, I'm screwed, and I don't have a spare
Yeah, that's
$3,000.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's a little scary. So I'm hoping they've learned their lesson and they engineer something a little bit better with Primus. So if that means waiting another 2 to 5 years for it, I'd rather wait until that time comes where they can absolutely nail it than get something that's rushed and be like, oh, it's the same thing from all over again with Unicron. Now I have two of them. But pivoting to what we could dream of, I'm gonna start off with something that might be a little bit out of left field. But since you're a
Mm-hmm.
fan of the movies, I think you might appreciate this. I don't think a lot of people would see this coming.
Damn,
My
already I'm
first,
kind of like scared.
no, I think you should be excited. So my
All right,
first
all right.
one, even though it's a little bit of a hot take, it would be from the movies. So the first HasLab one, again, something very different, would be from Transformers: The Last Night, Dragonstorm.
Hold on, I'm trying to give people like some time to clap and cheer for that one.
Exactly. So yeah, it's for those of you that have not seen The Last Night, I don't blame you. And this is another reason why I think it would be such a hard sell because that movie just absolutely cooked the live action franchise for a long time.
It
It like
killed us.
it just it was bad. If the Chinese market doesn't like it, you're in deep shit. But
Mm-hmm.
I still think the idea of having like a robotic representation of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and being what was it, like a 12 transformer combiner that took like
Yeah,
these
that's
knight looking robots into a dragon. That's
and
cool.
made super thin razor sharp wings.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
insane. That's
I
insane.
I would be all for that if they could find a way to actually, make it look good. Even
Mm-hmm.
if the figures don't even have to be that big either. I think they were all like deluxe or Voyager at best or at the tallest of robots. But if there was a way to make that into a functional combiner and all the robots looked good instead of being some like Combiner Wars Devastator phoned in mess that was unstable,
Mm-hmm.
that would be cool. I would really love to have like that thing properly done in scale with
Okay,
the rest of the Transformers
I could
just
definitely see that.
on there. That would be awesome.
I would get the appeal of it like being done and like the wow factor of like holy shit, like this is a 12 robot combiner in a non-traditional combiner form.
Yeah.
And at that point, I if for some reason they would attempt to make this a thing, it would definitely be a I'm paying for the engineering type of deal,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm I'm on the fence about in our like retail space, but like if it comes down to this is something that I like gladly like put my money down for because that engineering would be insane.
I know that's it's a bit of a long shot because I think that there's characters from the movie verse like Rise of the Beast Stratosphere or something along the lines of even Driller or like the Revenge of the Fallen version of Stratosphere that might be done. Just something that's a little bit more like substantial from the movies that would be done, let alone like the largest combiner from the worst movie. But
Mm.
it would still become something cool to see, something very different that's not like from a Japanese original series or something that was absolutely mammoth and only Primus or Unicron could be done at that price point. What about you? What's something that you would love to see from HasLab one day?
I I'm kind of having like a little bit of faith now with the direction that they're taking with making not limiting HasLab to non-Optimus Prime products. So it while it is a kind of controversial take on what belongs there, what doesn't. I would love to see a Galaxy Force or Cybertron Optimus Prime. Like, just give him everything. Give
Yes.
him all the weapons, all the blast effects, and we're not going to be getting any lights and sounds. I know. I'm not expecting anything, but I would just love to have a modern Galaxy Force Optimus Prime. And while they did the Armada Prime and gave him the Commander class slot, I don't think that the Galaxy Force Prime could survive in such a limited budget with the wings and the turrets and the super mode and the truck mode, having the trailer detach and come off and be its own thing, and having the winged flying truck mode for some reason. I would I feel like that's too much to pack into such a small package.
I would agree on you, and I feel similar to the way that they've done Victory Saber. If they're gonna do a proper like go all in on Cybertron / Galaxy Force Optimus Prime, I would also like to see Leo Breaker and Wing Saber along with him. Like if you're really gonna go all out, and even if that makes it like a $400 package, but they make them like a properly done Leo Breaker, a properly done Wing Saber that feels like everything you remember from the original series, but better with like modern articulation, the good quality plastic, all the cyber keys you could ask for. It doesn't even necessarily have to have like the firing missiles, but like unique blast effects that are not the same Omega Supreme and Jetfire Kingdom Come, but like really go all out and make it something that's like, wow, this is even better than third party. I would be all on board for that.
Yeah, they have kind of the upper hand now. That third party, what was it, Galaxy Leader or some name like that. They kind of dropped the ball hard. So I feel like a lot of people are looking at Hasbro now to be like, we got the Siege one, it was all right, but we're hungry for more, basically.
Yeah,
Like, show us what you could do now.
The Siege one's okay, but I think it works better with Nova Prime, even though it's still not quite there. But there's only so much limitations you can do with the Siege Ultra Magnus mold. It's just having the Studio Series 86 version and seeing what Commander class has been capable of since then. It's like, at this point, I'm okay with leaders basically being like Voyagers that are more fortified with better articulation, or just something that really focuses on being a solid figure versus like, hey, let's take this large size class character and try to shoehorn him into leader class, but having him fall short. So yeah, I agree. The Siege figure was fine for its time, but the longer the time goes on, even though it was only 5 years ago that came out, it's just, I keep shaking my head at it. I just think the Armada figure at the Commander class, it was just so much better. And yeah, I sold off that original figure a little while ago. So
yeah, me too.
I'm ready for a new one.
The chest was kind of cracking on mine. That little hinge. I don't know if you had the same issue too.
Clear plastic.
I couldn't see him deteriorate. I was like, no, like, you're leaving, buddy. I'm sorry.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Seeing, like, I wasn't even thinking about the Leo Breaker or Wing Saber aspect of it. Like but they did it with this recent HasLab. They packed in 2 other characters in it. We can see that you're open to the idea of having these combining elements come in a premium package. So yeah, you're right. We might as well just get everybody.
It's like, even if you get the amount of backers that you could get for a Titan class Grandus or Sky Gary or whatever from Return of Convoy, could you meet that 10,000 or 8,000 backers for it, or 12,000, or however much you need? Because like I'm pretty sure that could get over 8, but I think with a character that's that obscure, it's a stretch. It would really be a stretch.
Is there anybody else that you would like to see other than I mean, we did kind of discuss Primus a bit. We both want to see him. Is there a second one? Is there someone that you either kind of know is on the way that you would like to see done differently? Or
I think we've talked about this before on a previous episode. I would like to see a properly done not only Lio Kaiser but Raiden, because similar to what we've had already, we know with Victory Saber and Death Saurus that people want the representations of those Japanese only characters, and when you have the combiners, like everyone knows Bruticus, they know Devastator, they know Superion, Menasor, like getting those the American G1 purists with the combiners that are familiar, that have been on American television screens, that most like 84 to 87 collectors would know, that's feasible at retail. And then you get into the people that may know who Leo Kaiser is casually, but aren't necessarily the people that would watch Transformers Victory, similar to Star Saber, and the same thing with Raiden. One thing that I'm just like shaking my head at is I have the NPG Raiden looking right across at me, and he's a good fig. He is a good display piece. I'll say that. I'm very impressed with just how much detail is in there. And I probably wouldn't have gotten him if I wasn't not only a big Transformers fan, but also a big Train fan. But I would be lying to y'all if I said there's things that just come with the territory of being a masterpiece figure. Like sometimes this is a little over-engineered. Sometimes it's a lot of, tiny parts or very fiddly things that if they do not hold up over time, or you don't have it posed right, or the center of gravity's off, that would throw off the entire figure. And that's definitely the case with Raiden. So I would be very curious that something that's a little bit less complex and focuses more on being a fun figure, a stable like piece that you can not only display but also pose with, like going towards like a more generations friendly market. Because with the Masterpiece Raiden figure, like I said, it looks great on the shelf, but once you start fiddling around with it, it's like, how did this cost $1,000 and it still feels like insufficient? So
Yeah, that's crazy. I was all in for it when they first got announced years ago, and I saw the price of these things. I was like, absolutely not.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I love having them all displayed in train mode. They are in scale with like the HO trains. For those of you that are hobby train fans or model train fans, they do look good and they're actually compatible. And the boxes, like once you get the full complete box set, it does look great. But it's just it's plagued with a lot of issues that I just don't like about the Masterpiece line in general. It's focused on cartoon accuracy. With combiners, there's like this weird middle ground of where they focus on toon accuracy in like robot mode, but when it's combined, this thing is just like, it feels just insufficiently short when it's next to like Megatron or Optimus or Soundwave. It's like, it's barely taller. It's basically the size of Combiner Wars Menasor. It's like, this is $1,000. Like, what the hell? So I would rather something that goes along with the rest of the Generations line, maybe is a little bit taller, because I imagine like the six part combiners. So Lio Kaiser, Predaking, Devastator, and Raiden, even though there should be roughly the same size as the rest of the Scramble City combiners, because they're just bigger, I feel like you can kind of get away with them being a little bit taller, just because they're not only, 6 members instead of 5, but they also should have that like heft and brutality to them that the other ones just don't have. So this is a long way of saying I would be more like rebuy, what's his face? Sorry. 5, 4, 3, 2. I would be more than happy to rebuy Raiden at that price point if that means getting a more stable version of him. And of course, I'd throw money down on Lio. What about you? What else?
How would you feel? Well, just going off the Raiden real quick. How would you feel? I know it's very hard in the American market because Americans cannot accept anything or admit their love for trains. We all love trains. Stop acting
especially
like
in
we
New
don't.
York. We love trains.
Yeah,
we can't exist
we love
without
trains.
them.
Give us trains. How would you feel if we got generations versions of Raiden?
I don't care. I would love to. I don't care how it gets out, as long as it's done right.
Just give us trains.
Right. That's the big thing. When you go to these exclusive characters, I don't want this to be like, oh no, it's like a Generation Selects thing. So all you really do is you give it a new head and a new paint job, and you're supposed to squint your eyes and make sure it's like what this character or that character. No, I want this to be a properly done. I don't want this to be some like phoned in, we did this because we had to. But instead of giving
Yeah.
us a proper character that we have already, we're going to do some like random Junkion that's never been seen before, or like some rock monster, or like fossilized
Uh-oh.
Spinosaurus or whatever. Which again, the fossilized Zymerized and whatnot are cool, but like I feel like they should come second to established characters that fans have been wanting for a very long time. So
No, yeah, 100%.
yeah.
But yeah, going back to your question that you're asking, I think my last one would be maybe not my last one, but for today, for the discussion, I know they spoke a lot about having, or they were open to the idea of having Autobot City, and
Yes.
I would absolutely love that. But I'm also aware that there's so much more that they could do now and that they want to experiment with. I know with the success of the recent HasLab that they're going to try to visit the RID Megatron, or maybe they find it in themselves to give us a splendid convoy. We don't know. Maybe. I hope.
Maybe.
Maybe. I
Maybe.
hope so. Please. But I know that the Autobot City has been like a point of discussion before in the fandom. And while it's not a kind of profitable, marketable kind of character to put out there, I think it's a really neat concept that could just add more of a display to anyone's collection who's in our fandom, or people like us who are this deep in it.
I agree. Just to piggyback off RID Megatron for a bit, he actually was my very first Transformer ever. So
Ooh,
I would
wow.
love to get like the proper 10 changer RID Megatron and having him like have all the necessary bits and parts in him to look like he did on the show, and also be stable. Because
Yeah.
I remember that original figure. I have not the original one that I have, but I've bought a new version of it since. The one thing that crippled that toy was that his ball joints were just even straight out of the box, just like you're holding your breath that he doesn't topple over and the chrome doesn't chip away and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be like similar to the way they did the HasLab RID Optimus Prime and Magnus. Just take what was great about the original toy, update it, give it more stability, more longevity, more modern points of articulation and such, and build it from there. But again, because he would need to be in scale, if he needs to be like Commander Plus, so be it.
Yeah. That's insane. A 10 changer as a that's another like we're in it for the engineering type of product.
Yeah. For Autobot City, I agree too. At this point, I just want a new Metroplex because even looking at, thank God, I don't know how I got the San Diego Comic-Con version at like a freaking Bushwick toy store for $350 last year. I don't know how I did that, but I managed.
Bushwick.
Yeah.
What's in Bushwick?
An old toy store that was literally on my street on Knickerbocker Avenue in Bushwick that I got not only Metroplex in but also Fortress Max. Different years, but the same toy store. I don't know where these guys get their merchandise from. I don't know which dead Transformers fan they raid their collection. Rest in peace. Shout out to the shout out to the ghost of the dead Transformers fan if that was the guy. But it's just. I was lucky, but it's still just like that figure was when Titans first started coming out, and that thing, the Fortress Maximus and Metroplex mold, I think more than any other figure from that era is really starting to show its age, especially if you put it up with any modern Titan figure from like Siege going forward. It's like there's no ankles. The elbow joints and the shoulder joints are very stiff. The plastic itself is very hollow. And at that point, you're just paying for rarity as opposed to paying for quality. So I would be down to see a new Metroplex with all like the bells and whistles. Maybe like include a reissue of Six Gun and Slammer for those that didn't pick them up on time as like tier bonuses or whatever. I'm okay with that. The full Autobot City, I feel like that's in the same category as Primus. It's like number one, who's gonna have the space for that? It's like if you're talking to like a G.I. Joe collector and they're like, I'm gonna get the full USS flag. I'm like, are you sure you never want to get laid again? like, could you just like show that up at whatever apartment or house or whomever, and I'm just like, cool, this is awesome. I'm happy you have this in your collection. I'd also be like very concerned about like how you're just going to store this thing, and if you're able to store this, how much of your collection and your display spaces is going to take up. Like, I'm all for having the big purchases. I'm all for having like the big Transformers in your collection with the Titans and whatnot. But I just don't know if a full Autobot city would be functional, just even from like a monetary standpoint. Like, I just don't know who would be willing to throw down, I don't even know at this point, $700, $800 down for a full like Metroplex plus Autobot city. You feel me? Getting back to the feasibility of something like Autobot City, I think having a new Metroplex that's more like G1 cartoon accurate as opposed to comic accurate would be great, just because that old Fortress Maximus and Metroplex mold are so old at this point, and they're really showing their age. They're really just so far behind in terms of engineering, plastic quality, and such, compared to something like, you know, Nemesis or Tidal Wave or Scorponok or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think, yeah, for a Metroplex included with like both a reissue of Kingdom Slammer and Siege 6 Gun with like more accurate bits of cartoon paint would be great. But
or just to have them out at the same time the HasLab is like being funded.
Exactly. Like including that all together would be great, but like the full Autobot City would just be such a huge space suck from someone's collection. It's like how much room do you really have to display everything all together?
There'd be more collectors and fans out there who would acknowledge the fact that it's a cool piece and they want it, but they just would not get it.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I do have one more suggestion that's also out of left field, and this time is for the G1 crew. If I may indulge that, if we have time. It's gonna be now. This is gonna be a real deep dive on the TF Wiki page. But there was actually a 1985 Transformers electric train set, and it was transforming, but it wasn't in like the traditional sense of like transforming from like vehicle to robot, but was like an armored train, and the train bits themselves would like transform into different stuff. Mm-hmm. Like one would transform into like a more like missile ready train. One of the cars would be like a missile platform. The caboose transformed into a jet. So doing something like that, but also giving it like a proper robot mode on top of that would be good. Maybe not like the full like electrified like proper train set, but like the actual like locomotive, cars, everything that came along with that, and build it into something like, well, I don't know. They have the whole original Primes theme going on next year, so maybe like an Earth mode version of Nexus Prime, the Combiner, would be great.
Or that'd be good. Talking about the trains in G1. I would put money down right now, right freaking now. I'll give you my card information if they announced a HasLab Rails.
Yes, that's the Snake one, right?
Yeah. So for everybody who doesn't know, in an earlier draft of the '86 movie, I know we were gonna wrap up soon, but I think this is more important. In one of the early drafts of the '86 movie, Optimus Prime and his Autobots, I know Sunstreaker, Hound, whatever, he showed up with the Dinobots in one of the shuttles back down to Earth after Autobot City was being raided by Megatron. In one of the drafts, he was supposed to come with reinforcements on what would have been a newly introduced Autobot named Rails, who turned into a kind of like hover train, futuristic type of train. And I think at one of the last TF Cons or Comic Cons, they kind of like revealed that to the crowd, and they had some concept art drawn up on what he would have looked like, which would have been like just an absolute behemoth of a snake, made up of all the train cars. And I would love to see that maybe become a HasLab one day, just for the sheer size of it. I don't know how much engineering or articulation it would need other than, you know, swivels and joints and ball joints and that. But, you know, having maybe like a good 30, 40 inches of train would be dope as a HasLab.
I agree.
if they could like also or double purpose or multi-purpose those joints as for like arms and legs for potential robot mode that could be developed from that, similar to how like the Nemesis and Arc didn't have robot modes in G1.
Yeah.
But we gave them an alternate, or we gave them a robot mode in Legacy and Kingdom. That would be awesome. Like, keep everything that was great about the original draft. Keep the snake mode, keep the train mode, but also give it that robot mode on top of that.
Yeah.
I am 100% for that. Just stuff that takes the existing Transformers lore and building upon it is what makes Generations so great. Like, you have the freedom of being adherent to the source material, but it also gives you something new instead of being like strictly purist.
Yeah. Yeah, just add a twist to it while still respecting what it was and really what should have been, honestly.
Yes, I totally agree. I think we're going to have to end it there. I know Danny has to rush off and get his car, not repossessed. Yeah. That's the wrong word. Repaired.
No, definitely not repossessed.
Well, you're in Staten Island. I don't know.
Your car was stolen. You got to go get it back. No, Autobot Dion is getting fixed up right now.
Yeah. It's all good. I'm just giving him a hard time. Yeah. But again, thank you guys for joining us for another episode. We're really happy to have you on board. Again, thank you for your support so far. We really appreciate it. Again, Instagram, Cybertron City Podcast. From there, you can see our link tree, which will take you to either our Spotify page or YouTube page. Whichever way you can engage with the podcast, leave a comment, leave a review, smash that like button, hit subscribe. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time. Any parting rules or parting words with people, Mr. Danny?
No, that about covers everything. Follow us on Instagram, Brooklyn Bots and Matrix_Mez 23. Follow the podcast on Instagram. I think Paul already covered that, and we'll see you guys next week. We're excited. Excited to keep it going.
Let us know exactly what you guys would like to see in a future HasLab in the comments. We'd love to start a conversation on that. But until then. Yeah. This is Paul, and this is Danny. We're signing off. Have a great one, and see y'all next time.
See you guys.